We're in Washington, D.C. Let's spend a few moments now talking with Dave Salmonsen, who is Senior Director of Congressional Relations with the American Farm Bureau Federation. Dave, one of the things that you focus on is trade, and trade has been something we've been talking about for a long time. The President in the State of the Union said we're going to do something, and quite honestly, here we are in spring. Some things have happened. At least in Congress, we are moving forward with the possibility of granting trade promotion authority.
Yes, we are. Last week, both the Senate Finance Committee and the House Ways and Means Committee reported out bills on the TPA. So that'll move now towards floor consideration, probably later in the month of May, but we would certainly hope that by the Memorial Day recess, we'd have this all done.
It looks like, reading the tea leaves, this is probably going to happen.
I think it is. It was a very strong vote in both committees, signaling that there's broad support for this, that the measures to make sure that when a trade agreement is considered by Congress, it's an up or down vote without amendment. You know, this is very critical for the negotiations, especially in agriculture, where we see that countries keep the tough issues, which are the ag issues, to the end, and they have to know that when they make a deal with the U.S., that deal will go before Congress and get a vote without changes. Nobody wants to bring this back in any government, ours or theirs, and do it all over again. So they want to make sure that the deal they make, we hope it's a good deal, but when it gets there, it's voted on and not changed.
The Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement is the other one that's kind of moving forward. Looks like that may possibly get done fairly soon. I know last week the five kind of nation beef coalition has said, yeah, let's get it done. We can all put this piece together. It seems like that's another one where agriculture is kind of the sticking point in getting everybody to agree, because bottom line, it comes down to food.
Yes, it does. The big part of the TPP for the U.S., of course, is our discussions with Japan. And later this week, the Prime Minister of Japan, Mr. Abe, will be here in Washington talking with the President, addressing a joint session of Congress. I'm sure talking a lot about the Trans-Pacific Partnership. If the U.S. can make an agreement with Japan and really get some good access for the U.S. on agriculture, there's also some difficult issues with the auto industry to be resolved. That really will set the signal that, okay, the hardest part left of the TPP negotiations, we can make a deal and go forward. I think the rest of it can come together, and we might actually see a TPP agreement go before Congress later this year.
And again, it looks like the numbers stack up to where most want to see this move forward. I know there's some factions out there that want to continue to maybe look at it, but when you're always looking at it, you're not moving forward.
Well, we're seeing some good indications. We understand that the beef tariff, which is at 38.5% with Japan, will go down to 9% over a term of years. Not exactly sure all of the ins and outs of that, but that certainly will lead to better access. Pork in much the same way, lower tariffs, better access there. Dairy products, some of the same. And you know, the Australians got a little start on us. They make a deal with Japan. Their tariffs are already coming down. So we need to move ahead, or we'll be behind them on tariff treatment.
Another issue is we talk about Cuba. That everybody was excited about that. That was going to happen. Some are saying, well, let's not get overly excited, especially when it comes to agriculture. There's a lot of hurdles. One of the things in Nebraska is dry edible beans have been a big market. Cuba has been a big market for them. That, wheat, some of those other commodities. Are we anywhere near maybe moving that ball forward to seeing U.S. commodities back in Cuba, or in a more regular basis?
I think we are. I think we are. These things, everything with Cuba seems to take time. A 50-year embargo. There was the bill passed in 2001 that allowed food to be sold to Cuba from the U.S., food and medicines. That market has developed. There have been restrictions that the U.S. government put on the way we finance that. That's been a competitive disadvantage for us. We didn't have normal trade relations with Cuba, so we had to endure some extra costs. Well, that kind of put us out of the wheat market. We haven't sold wheat there since 2011. Canada and the European Union supply Cuba's wheat needs. Rice we haven't sold since 2008. That comes from either Vietnam or Brazil. So we're a little disadvantaged. I think some of the changes that have been made already, the administration has been able to make by dialing back some of those restrictions from the Treasury Department, will lower costs for exporters in the U.S. and help our competitive situation there.
What about the avian influenza situation? As we know, it's having an impact here in the U.S., but it's also having an impact globally of saying, well, now some of the exports countries don't want our poultry because just with the situation right now. Any updates there?
Well, there are unfortunately increasing amounts of countries as this thing not just is here, but is getting, it seems, getting bigger. We hope it gets over with very quickly. Minnesota, other states seem particularly hard hit by this. So there's a lot of countries around the world that either restrict from the area, which according to world animal standards, if you're going to restrict, you restrict to an area, or some countries like China have just said, well, we won't take anything at all. So they do a broader restriction than we think they need to. But this situation certainly needs to get under control, needs to be dealt with, so we can fully participate with our poultry products in international markets.
Dave, thanks for the update. Your plate's full.
It sure is. It's been an exciting time, though.
Right. Dave Salmonsen, who is Senior Director of Congressional Relations for the American Farm Bureau Federation, has joined us. That's the Ag View from D.C. I'm Ken Rogers.